Hello guys, welcome to my class Commerce Compass, where I will be teaching cost accountancy, income tax, statistics and business mathematics to make your life easier. So stay tuned and hit subscribe for more amazing content. Let us start with today's topic, classification of cost. One of the various methods of classifying cost is the element of cost. The element of cost may be defined as the primary classification depending upon factors on which expenditure is incurred, as for example material cost, labor cost and other expenses. So element of cost are three: materials, wages and expenses. These may be analyzed further. So material, there is one is direct material and another one is direct material, another one is indirect material. So another one is labor, so it can be divided into two. One is direct labor, another one is indirect labor. Similarly, expenses can be divided into two. One is direct expenses, another one is indirect expenses. Now, material. What is direct material? Direct material refers to material out of which product is manufactured. That is the direct material. So for example, timber in furniture making. When we like to make prepare furniture, so timber is the main component. That is the direct material. Leather in shoe making, steel in utensil making, and milk in butter product. All these are examples of direct material. So what are the indirect? Now I coming to the indirect part later on. So similarly, there is direct labor. Direct labor is the cost of labor which is directly engaged in the production, in manufacturing process. That is the direct labor. Say best example is carpenter. Cost of carpenter in furniture making, weavers, cost of weavers for textile industry, etc. That is direct labor, the labor cost which is directly engaged in production. That is labor cost. And other expense, other than material and labor, there are certain expenses which are wholly and exclusively required for production. That is called other expenses. Say, let us take an example. Say, if we got an order for manufacturing of 1000 plastic ball, and customer wants to embed name of the customer on the ball. So for this it's require a special mold. The cost of the mold is a direct expenses in manufacturing the plastic balls. So examples of other direct expenses, say hiring of special machineries, designing and drawing, inspection charges, surveyor fees. All these are example of direct expenses. So each element of cost divided into two. One is direct and another one is indirect. So indirect material, indirect labor and indirect expenses together called overhead or on cost. That is the indirect part. These overhead or on cost are divided into another according to factors of production. So what is indirect material? So apart from direct material, there is other expenses which is required. That indirect part is not directly charged to the product or services. Okay, it is apportioned to the cost center or cost unit on some suitable basis. This is called overhead or indirect part. So now here is some example of indirect materials: lubricating oil, fuel, cotton waste, small tool, etc. These are the example of indirect material. Like indirect labor, say watchman, storekeeper, supervisor, foreman. It is not directly charged to the cost center or product. This is a common expenditure that has been suitably allocated, apportioned to the cost center or cost unit. Similarly, the indirect expenses are, say, rent, insurance, municipal taxes, welfare expenditure, telephone expense, lighting, heating. All these are examples of indirect expenses. All these indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses coming together and form overhead. All these expenses are called overhead or on cost. That on cost or overhead may be classified according to the factors. Say indirect expenses relating to production or manufacturing is called production overhead or factory overhead or manufacturing overhead or works overhead, as you say. Okay, so it is called production overhead or works overhead, like depreciation of a plant and machinery, depreciation of factory building, rent of the factory, electricity charges, insurance charges of fixed assets and floating assets, repair and maintenance of plant and machinery and factory building, salary and wages of the supervisor, watchman, foreman, and timekeeper. All these expenses relating to factory is called factory overhead or works overhead. Similarly, administrative overhead or office overhead, like salaries of office staff and other related office expenditure like postage, printing, stationery, depreciation of office building, audit fees, all these etc. are examples of administrative and office overhead. Similarly, there is selling overhead. Sometimes we club it together and we call it selling and distribution overhead. So it is selling overhead, as for example, advertisement expenses, salaries and commission of salesman and selling agent, marketing and research expenditure, rent of the selling offices, all are example of selling overhead. Similarly, distribution overhead, say carriage onward, packing expenses, warehouse staff salaries, normal loss of finished goods, etc. All these are example of distribution overhead. Okay, so I repeat, element of cost are mainly three: material, labor, and other expenses. Each element of cost are divided into two parts. One is direct and another one is indirect. Similarly, direct material and indirect material, direct labor and indirect labor, and other expenses, direct expenses and other indirect expenses. All direct part, which is cost, which is directly charged to the product, are called direct expenses, direct expenditure. It may be material, labor, or other expenditure. In case of indirect material, indirect labor and indirect expense are called overhead or on cost, which is not charged directly to the product or services, but it is apportioned to the cost center or cost unit on some suitable basis. So overheads can be classified into four. One is factory overhead, another one is administrative overhead, another one is selling overhead, and another one is distribution overhead. By grouping the above element of cost, total cost of a product can be analyzed as follows. I repeat, by grouping the above element of cost, total cost of a product can be analyzed as follows. Say direct material, direct labor, and direct expenses together constitute prime cost. Okay, and indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses together constitute factory overhead or works overhead. Okay, factory overhead or works overhead. Then prime cost plus factory overhead together constitute factory cost or work cost or production cost or manufacturing cost, whatever you say. Prime cost plus factory overhead is the factory cost or work cost. Work cost plus office and administrative overhead, that is cost of production. Sometimes it is cost of production. Then cost of production plus selling and distribution is the total cost or cost of sales. Now add profit element with the total cost, then you can find out the selling price. Now let us see the specimen of a cost sheet. So here is a specimen of cost sheet. There is total units, particulars, total cost and cost per unit. Say direct material, direct labor and direct expenses, individual cost and total cost. This is called prime cost, and divide by this prime cost by total unit, we will get cost per unit. Add works overhead or factory overhead and we will get work cost. With the work cost add selling and administrative overhead, we will get cost of production, and with cost of production add selling and distribution overhead, we will get the total cost. Okay, and this is the specimen actual format of finding out the total cost of a product. Now we will see the details breakup of the cost sheet. Let us discuss the details of a cost sheet. So here is opening stock of raw material, add purchase of raw material and less closing stock of raw material. This is called raw material consumed. Opening stock plus purchase less closing, raw material consumed. Then add with this the direct wages and direct expenses, we will get the prime cost. With the prime cost add factory overhead and some opening work in progress, add opening work in progress and deduct closing work in progress, we will get factory cost or work cost. Okay, then with the factory cost or work cost add office and administrative overhead, we will get cost of production, right? Then cost of production, if there is any opening stock, add with this and deduct the closing finished stock, we will get cost of production of goods sold. Then with the cost of production of goods sold add selling and distribution overhead, we will get the total cost or cost of sales. Then with the total cost or cost of sales add profit element, we will get the selling price. This is the detailed structure of the cost sheet. Let us take an example to prepare cost sheet. Okay, the following data are related to the manufacture of a standard product during the month of January some year. So say raw material consumed 30,000, direct wages 18,000, machine hour work 900 hours, machine hour rate rupees 10, administrative overhead 20% on work cost, selling overhead rupees 1 per unit, unit produced 17,100 and unit sold 16,000 at the rate of 6 per unit. You are required to prepare cost sheet showing cost per unit, profit per unit sold and profit for the period. Let us prepare a cost sheet for the month of January 2025. Output is 17,100 units. So right here output 17,100 units. So you know that particulars, total cost and cost per unit. So raw material and direct wages, find out the raw material, how much is the raw material. Raw material is 30,000 and wages is this. So this is 30,000 and this is 18,000, 48,000. So divide by 17,100, 30,000 by this, we will find out this will coming out 1.75 per unit. This is 18,000 by 17,100. So either prime cost you may divide 48,000 by this, or you add it up. If you add it, this is 2.80 per unit prime cost. Now add works overhead. Works overhead, it is given machine hour work 900 unit, machine 10 per this, that means works overhead is 900 into 10, 900 hours into rupees 10 per hour. Okay, 900 hours per hour, that is 9,000. We divide 9,000 by this, it will come out 0.53. So work cost, if you add this, it will come 57,000, and this will works out 3.33. Works cost is 57,000, and per unit works cost is 3. This is division by 17,100. Now add office and administrative overhead. Office and administrative overhead is 20% of work cost. What is the work cost? Work cost is this. Office and administrative overhead. Office and administrative overhead. This is 20% on 57,000. Okay, which will coming out. Office and administrative overhead is 11,400. 20% of this, that is 1/5. If you add it up, it will come 68,400. And official, you divide this by 17,100, it will coming out 0.67. Then it will coming out 4. Either you divide this 68,400 by 17,100, or add this plus this. This is 4 per unit. Then cost of production is 68,400, and per unit cost of production is ₹4. Now you have to find out the profit statement. Now see, your output is 17,100 and your unit sold is 16,000. Okay, that means total output has not yet been sold. Some units are still in the finished stock, in the closing stock. That should be kept in mind. Most of the students made a mistake here. So now, if possible, prepare a separate statement, cost of profit. Now total cost, now right here, unit sold. Unit sold is 16,000. Now cost per unit, total cost. So cost of production is 68,000. Sorry. Cost of production is 68,400 and unit is 4. Okay, then unit sold is 16,000 unit. Then there is some closing stock. How much is the closing stock? 17,100 unit is the output. Unit sold is 16,000. Then balance amount 17,100 by 16,000. This much quantity is in stock. This rate is 4. This into 4. That means 4,400 is the closing stock. So deduct closing stock of finished good. Okay. Then it will coming out 64,000. Okay. 64,000. Now I add selling and distribution overhead. Selling and distribution overhead is ₹1 per unit. So how much is the unit sold? 16,000. That means 16,000. Okay. ₹1 into 16,000. This will coming out 80,000. Okay. 80,000. Then this is 1 per unit. 5 per unit. Then now this is the cost of sales. This is the cost of sales. Now what is your sales figure? 80,000. Your sales is 16,000, right? Now profit is 16,000. 1 per unit. This is 96,000. How much is the sale? 16,000. The unit sold is unit 16. Unit sold is 96,000 at the rate of 6. It is given. Okay. Now the sales is 16,000 into 6. That is 96,000. Then balancing figure is the profit. And 16,000 by 16,000, that is 1 per unit. So the cost per unit is coming out is 4. Profit per unit is 1. Profit per unit is 1, and profit for the year is 16,000. Okay, is clear? So here is the sales figure is 16,000 unit into 6 at the rate of 6 per unit is given. So balancing figure is the profit. Okay, per unit is the 16,000 by 16,000, that is 1. This is example of cost sheet. So it should be kept in mind, unit produced and unit, if all unit have been sold out, there is no closing stock. If something less is sold out, then there should be some closing stock that should be kept in mind. Okay, so today for end of this class.